Welcome to Biography with Plutarch, where we delve into the lives of history's most fascinating figures, seeking to understand the complexities of human character and the timeless lessons that emerge from their experiences. Today, we embark on a journey to explore the life of Simón Bolívar, the renowned Venezuelan military leader and statesman who played a pivotal role in shaping the fate of South America. Born on July 24, 1783, in Caracas, Venezuela, Simón Bolívar entered the world amidst the tumultuous landscape of colonial Latin America. The city, with its terracotta-tiled roofs and cobblestone streets, was a hub of commerce, culture, and revolution. The air was thick with the whispers of discontent among the Criollo population, who yearned for independence from Spanish rule. The sounds of horse-drawn carriages, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, and the vibrant colors of the local marketplaces all blended together to create an atmosphere that was both exhilarating and treacherous. Bolívar's birthplace, a sprawling city nestled between the Caribbean coast and the Andes Mountains, was a place of breathtaking beauty. The majestic Avila Mountain loomed in the distance, its peak shrouded in mist, while the Guaira River flowed gently through the heart of the city, providing a lifeline for the local population. It was within this cauldron of simmering rebellion that Bolívar's early life would unfold, shaped by the intricate web of family ties, social hierarchy, and colonial politics. As a member of the landed gentry, Bolívar's family enjoyed a comfortable existence, their wealth derived from the rich agricultural lands and copper mines they owned. His father, Juan Vicente Bolívar y Ponte, was a descendant of Spanish nobility with a lineage that dated back to the conquest of the New World. His mother, María de la Concepción Palacios y Blanco, hailed from a prominent Venezuelan family whose roots in the region stretched back generations. This union of Old World aristocracy and New World affluence would shape the young Simon's worldview, instilling in him a sense of pride, duty, and social responsibility. The Bolívar family estate, San Mateo, was a grand hacienda that sprawled across the Venezuelan countryside, its rolling hills and lush pastures home to cattle, horses, and crops. The estate was a self-sufficient community, with its own chapel, school, and infirmary, where the local peasants and slaves lived and worked. It was here that Simón spent much of his childhood, surrounded by the sights and sounds of rural life, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds, and the gentle lowing of cattle. Tragedy struck early in Bolívar's life when his father passed away in 1786, leaving his mother to manage the family's estate. This event not only altered the family's dynamics, but also exposed Simón to the harsh realities of life at a tender age. His mother, determined to provide her son with a well-rounded education, engaged tutors to instruct him in the classical arts, literature, and philosophy. The young Bolívar proved to be an avid learner, devouring the works of Enlightenment thinkers such as Rousseau, Voltaire, and Locke, whose ideas would later influence his own vision for a unified and independent Latin America. As Bolívar navigated his childhood, he was surrounded by the sights and sounds of a city on the cusp of revolution. The streets of Caracas were abuzz with discussions about liberty, equality, and the injustices of colonial rule. His family's estate, where he spent much of his youth, became a hub for like-minded individuals who shared stories of rebellion and resistance against Spanish authorities. These early influences would sow the seeds of Bolívar's future passion for independence and his determination to challenge the status quo. One such influence was the Venezuelan intellectual, Simón Rodríguez, who would later become Bolívar's mentor and friend. Rodríguez, a fierce advocate for education and social reform, instilled in Bolívar a love of learning and a commitment to the principles of liberty and justice. Their conversations, which ranged from philosophy to politics, would have a lasting impact on Bolívar's worldview and shape his vision for a more just and equitable society. The loss of his mother in 1792 marked another significant turning point in Bolívar's life. Orphaned at the age of 9, he was placed under the guardianship of Carlos Palacios, a family friend who would oversee his education and upbringing. This change in circumstances led Bolívar to be sent to live with his uncle, Carlos Palacios, in La Guaira, a coastal town perched on the edge of the Caribbean Sea. It was here that he continued his studies, developing a deeper appreciation for the natural world and the complexities of human relationships. The historical context of his early life, marked by colonial oppression, revolutionary fervor, and personal loss, would ultimately inform his vision for a unified Latin America, where liberty, justice, and equality could flourish. As Bolívar entered his teenage years, a spark within him ignited, fueling an insatiable passion for learning and a desire for independence that would only continue to grow more fierce with time. In 1799, at the age of 16, he embarked on a journey to Spain, a country alive with the vibrant intellectual and cultural scene of Madrid. The city, with its grand architecture, bustling streets, and salons filled with debates about the latest philosophical ideas, became his playground for exploration. It was during this period that Bolívar delved deeply into the works of Enlightenment thinkers, men like Rousseau, Voltaire, and Locke, who espoused ideas about liberty, equality, and democracy that would later shape his vision for a unified Latin America. The years in Madrid were formative, not just intellectually but also personally. In 1802, Bolívar married Maria Teresa del Toro Aleza, a member of a wealthy and influential family whose union with him brought not only financial security but also an introduction to the complexities and intrigues of high society. Navigating this world required finesse, understanding the intricacies of politics, etiquette, and social hierarchy was as much a part of his education as were the classical texts he devoured. However, his happiness in this new life was short-lived. Fate dealt him a cruel blow when his wife died of yellow fever in 1803, leaving him a widower at the tender age of 20. This personal tragedy, compounded by the tumultuous political climate of Europe, where Napoleon's ambitions were reshaping the continent and challenging traditional monarchies, led Bolívar to return to Venezuela in 1807. The voyage back was not just a physical journey, but also an emotional and intellectual one. Upon his arrival, he found himself increasingly drawn into the independence movement, which was gaining momentum across Latin America like a rising tide. He joined the Patriotic Society, a group of intellectuals and revolutionaries who sought to challenge Spanish rule and establish a sovereign nation. This association marked a pivotal moment in Bolívar's life, as it aligned his personal desire for freedom with a collective dream of liberty. In 1810, Bolívar played a key role in the establishment of the Junta Suprema de Caracas, a provisional government that was the first tangible step towards Venezuela's struggle for independence. As a member of this junta, he worked tirelessly, employing his knowledge of politics, diplomacy, and military strategy to rally support among the population. His efforts were not confined to the political arena. He also used his charisma and eloquence to inspire the masses, to make them see that their future was inextricably linked with the cause of independence. One of the most significant events in Bolívar's life occurred on July 5, 1811, when the Venezuelan Congress declared independence from Spain. This momentous occasion was the culmination of years of planning, negotiation, and activism, a dream finally taking shape. In the years that followed, Bolívar dedicated himself fully to the pursuit of independence, leading military campaigns against Spanish forces with a strategic brilliance that belied his years. He worked to build a unified and stable government, knowing that true liberty could only be secured through the establishment of strong, just institutions. In 1830, he was appointed as the commander-in-chief of the Venezuelan army, a position from which he led a series of successful battles against the Spanish, including the Battle of Taguanes on July 31, 1830. Each victory not only brought him closer to his goal, but also elevated his status among his people, who began to see in him a hero and a leader. As his reputation grew, so did his influence, and he became known as El Libertador, the Liberator, a title that would stick with him for the rest of his life. His military victories, combined with his charisma and leadership abilities, made him a beacon of hope for many, and his vision for a unified and independent Latin America began to take shape in the minds of those who followed him. In 1815, Bolívar traveled to Jamaica, where he met with other leaders of the independence movement, including the Haitian president, Alexandre Peyon. This meeting was more than a mere encounter. It marked an important milestone in the development of Pan-Americanism, as Bolívar and his contemporaries began to envision a future where Latin American nations would work together to promote liberty, justice, and economic cooperation. The seeds of a unified front against colonial powers were being sown, with Bolívar at the forefront. Upon his return to Venezuela, Bolívar launched a new military campaign against the Spanish, which culminated in the Battle of Boyacá on August 7, 1819. This decisive victory marked the beginning of the end of Spanish rule in Latin America and paved the way for the establishment of Gran Colombia, a vast republic that would encompass present-day Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Panama. The dream of a unified Latin America was taking its first steps towards realization. As the years passed, Bolívar continued to play a central role in shaping the destiny of Latin America. He served as the president of Gran Colombia from 1819 to 1830, working tirelessly to promote economic development, ensure political stability, and secure social justice. His presidency was marked by challenges, internal conflicts, external pressures. But through it all, he remained steadfast in his commitment to the ideals that had driven him since his return to Venezuela. As the years went by, Bolívar's health began to decline, and he faced increasing opposition from within his own government. The once unyielding leader, who had fought tirelessly for the liberation of Latin America, now found himself beset on all sides by the very people he had trusted to help him build a unified nation. Despite these challenges, he remained committed to his vision of a unified Latin America, and in 1826 he convened the Congress of Panama, a gathering of representatives from across the region aimed at promoting economic cooperation and collective defense. The Congress of Panama was a grand experiment, one that brought together delegates from as far north as Mexico and as far south as Chile. The meeting took place in the sweltering heat of the Panamanian summer, with temperatures often reaching over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, despite the oppressive climate, the delegates were filled with an sense of optimism and purpose, driven by Bolívar's infectious passion for unity and cooperation. As he navigated the treacherous waters of regional politics, Bolívar became increasingly disillusioned with the factionalism and regionalism that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of Gran Colombia. He had always known that building a unified nation would be a difficult task, but he had never imagined that it would be so fraught with challenges. The constant bickering between rival factions, the petty squabbles over power and resources, and the relentless machinations of his enemies all took their toll on Bolívar's mental and physical health. In a letter to a close friend, written in the midst of this turmoil, Bolívar poured out his heart, revealing the depths of his frustration and despair. "I have ruled for 20 years," he wrote, "and from these 20 years I have won 10 battles, but my enemies have been more cunning than I, and they have defeated me." These words betray a sense of weariness and frustration, yet even in defeat, Bolívar's spirit remained unbroken. He knew that he had given his all to the cause of Latin American unity, and that, even if he did not succeed in achieving his goals, he had inspired a generation of leaders to follow in his footsteps. In 1830, after a long and tumultuous presidency, Bolívar resigned as president of Gran Colombia, and the country soon fragmented into separate nations. As he departed from the political scene, he was met with both praise and criticism, his legacy already the subject of intense debate. Some hailed him as a hero, a champion of freedom and unity, who had given his all to the cause of Latin American liberation. Others vilified him as a power-hungry dictator who had sought to impose his will on the region through force and coercion. Yet, despite the controversies that swirled around him, Bolívar's impact on Latin America remained undeniable. He had inspired a generation of leaders to take up the cause of independence and self-determination, and his legacy continued to shape the course of regional politics long after he was gone. As he lived in exile, first in Jamaica and later in Europe, Bolívar continued to write and reflect on his life's work, pouring out his thoughts and feelings into a series of letters and memoirs that would one day become classics of Latin American literature. On December 17, 1830, Bolívar passed away in Santa Marta, Colombia, his body weakened by tuberculosis. The news of his death sent shockwaves throughout the region, and he was mourned by countless thousands who had come to regard him as a hero and a symbol of their struggle for freedom. In the years that followed, Bolivar's legacy continued to grow, inspiring movements for self-determination and social justice across the globe. Today, Simón Bolívar is remembered as one of the most important figures in Latin American history, a champion of independence and unity who left an indelible mark on the region. His legacy extends far beyond the borders of Gran Colombia, inspiring leaders from Nelson Mandela to Fidel Castro and shaping the course of regional politics for generations to come. We see a leader who was driven by a fierce passion for justice and equality, yet who was also capable of great kindness and empathy. We see a warrior who fought tirelessly for the liberation of Latin America, yet who was also a poet and a philosopher who saw the world in all its beauty and complexity. Bolívar's life serves as a powerful reminder that our individual actions have the power to shape not only our own destinies, but also the fate of nations. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a better future, and that with courage, determination, and a commitment to justice, we can overcome even the most daunting challenges. That's all for today's biography with Plutarch. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that understanding the lives of remarkable individuals helps us better understand ourselves.